Wow. Um, this is the most ridiculous group of characters I've ever had the privilege of DMing, and I'm going to tell you why. Hey guys, I'm Heath Bromley, and this is my first adventure chronicle where I relay the story of what happens at my table while my friends and I play Dungeons and Dragons. My friends are amazing people, and they're hilarious, and the characters they bring to my table are even more ridiculous than the people themselves. And I think the things that happen at our table are worth retelling. So we're there at the table, and we're gonna play. And this is the first Adventure Chronicle. I'm setting the scene, and of course, as the DM, I'm trying to monologue and create this grand scene of this town on the edge of a expanse of wilderness. This tall steeple stands, and that is where this motley band of adventurers has been summoned by the Order. And at this point, I've set the scene, I've set the context, we're having a little bit of fun role-playing, and I realized these characters haven't introduced themselves to the other players at the table. Yeah, they know each other from this background story we've just gone over, but you know, Tyler, Connor, Catherine, my wife, they don't actually know who the other players are playing. They don't know the characters. And so I thought this would be a great time for them to introduce themselves. I have the guard kind of stop them and have them explain to the guard what they're doing here. The guard's like, hey, wait, what are you doing here? Nobody's allowed, right? And they're all like, oh, they're looking around each other trying to figure out. And I say, okay, what does the guard see? They go around and describe each one of their characters, one by one. And the guard's eyes go from here to here, because every single character is no taller than 4 feet tall. It's ridiculous. They did not plan this at all. Now, all of my NPCs are looking at these characters. Tyler, goblin sorcerer, who thinks he's a wizard, named Jaws, the great white wizard. Catherine, a gnome cleric from the god of war, named Nana N, who's really not that into violence, and if there were social media, would be somebody who's obsessed with it. Jim, dwarven druid, named Eldwin Glidefoot. He's a cheery, bubbly fellow who would remind you of a Colorado Boy Scout troop leader, like from that guy that does nature trails. Matthew, dwarven monk, whose religious text-thumping diatribes is sure to come across as nothing short of judgmental. Connor, Helga, the gnome bard, who doesn't quite know what's going on, but is pretty much down for anything. I'm dumbfounded, and I love it. So the party goes into the church and meets with Lady Vord of the Order. Now, why were they asked by the Order to meet them there? How did they gain the Order's attention? And why is the Order asking a band of mercenaries to do their work for them? So I had them, before we sat down at the table, come up with their first adventure, what they accomplished, and why it had gained them notoriety and the attention of the Order. Now, I thought that my friends, would come up with something epic and brave. No, instead, they wanted everything that they did. They wanted to make their mission in life to accomplish things by accident. That everything that happens to them and all the things that they accomplish was a fluke. So in this case, they destroyed a huge sea monster out in the Great Sea just east of here by impaling it with their fishing boat because they didn't quite know how to, sail the fishing boat, perfectly setting up the ridiculousness of what's to come. Lady Vord hopes that the grand sum of 45 gold per person is enough to convince these mercenaries to seek out the treasure in a tomb west of here in the Brazen Peaks near Pale Mountain, a large volcano, and find a certain specific artifact for her. This artifact is called a countdown clock. Now, the characters don't know much about the countdown clock, but what they do know is it's important, and it promises a lot of gold if they get to the tomb and find whatever else is in there. So the party makes their way west to the Brazen Peaks, and the adventure begins. The last encounter of the night, however, is where things get really interesting. The party sees an encampment of gnolls across a river about 150 feet away. Gnolls are these large hyena men that are very powerful warriors and inhabit the foothills of the Brazen Peaks, so they've heard. They don't know much about the gnolls, but somebody in their party, Jaws, the great white wizard, the goblin sorcerer, who thinks he's a wizard, has a little bit of history about gnolls, and he's trying to get close enough to find out some more information about who these gnolls are and what they may be hiding in their tents. Eventually, the party decides we just need to go for it. Well, the gnome cleric, who follows the god of war, decides to cast darkness from 100 feet away. The gnolls are shrouded in darkness, and this gives the party enough time to close the distance to the river, try and make it across the river, and engage in combat. Most of the people, except for one, fail their checks to get across the river and are swept a little bit downriver, but the monk is able to climb onto the other bank and launch himself into combat. A couple of rounds go by, and he hears this rustling, this metal bending of bars from the tent nearby off to his right. A massive desert scorpion with large black claws and a huge black stinger comes barreling out of the large tent in the encampment and surrounds him and comes up behind him and starts attacking this monk. Most of the party is 30 or 40 feet away, and there's really nothing they can do as the monk just gets bombarded by attacks. I think he loses almost all of his hit points in maybe 1 or 2 rounds, and it's looking pretty dire. Inn tries to move in to heal the monk, who is on his last little bits of hit point and is about to go down, but can't quite get close enough. And on the next round, sure enough, the monk falls unconscious. You can see the excitement in the gnolls' eyes as they yip at each other in their gnollish kind of growly voice and express that they're going to go in to finish the kill. Meanwhile, the rest of the party is trying to distract the scorpion from doing the same, so maybe there's a chance to save their monk friend, their dwarven friend. One of our players, I think either the druid or the gnome or the gnome cleric is able to go in and heal him and pick him back up. He pops up and has this momentary thought that maybe I should run away, and realizes it as weakness because he knows he cannot run from battle. It's not in his character, so he continues the fight. Confused by this magic but unchanged in their resolve, the gnolls continue to focus their attention on this dwarven monk who seems to be unkillable. The monk again falls unconscious, and now the scorpion has closed in around and is going to help finish the kill with these 2 gnolls and the scorpion on either side. So then, our goblin sorcerer, who thinks he's a wizard, has a brilliant idea. From 30 feet away, he casts message. Okay, as a DM, I'm thinking, I don't know if I can allow the tide of battle to be turned on this spell. It's a level 1 spell. It's not really meant to command or change the behavior of an enemy. And I'm thinking if he's trying to convince these gnolls to just stop fighting the party, it's probably not going to work. No, he comes up with something much better. I say, what do you say to him? And he says, "This is the hunting party you've been waiting for. The scorpions have turned on us. Kill all of the scorpions." Brilliant. And so I had him roll a deception check. He's a goblin. Surely he doesn't have that high of deception, right? Wrong. 23. He rolls like a 19 plus 4. I say it's starting to work. You can see him kind of look around confusedly and then snap over at the scorpion and see it growing closer and closer to him, not the dwarven monk lying on the ground. And you can see the fear build up in his eyes, but it's going to take a little bit more convincing. And he commits to the con, and I love it. He casts message again and says something along the lines of, "The scorpions are going to kill us all. You have to stop them. Only you can do this," to that one gnoll. I thought this was hilarious, so I have him roll another deception check. Natural 20. Everyone at the table loses their mind. Of course, I have to reward the natural 20. So the gnoll immediately, going to stab the monk, looking down at him, leaves the monk, turns to the scorpion, and goes to fight the scorpion, who at the time only has about 30% of his health left, because the other party members are still doing work. I roll for the first attack on the gnoll. Natural 20. The gnoll somehow does 35 points of damage and kills the scorpion outright. At this point, the remaining gnoll is now super confused because all he sees is his buddy, his comrade, who's about to finish this kill on this dwarf who's interrupted their dinner for the day, turn to the scorpion and stab it through its face and kill it outright. That gnoll has no idea what's going on. Now both gnolls are confused. This gnoll's looking at that gnoll while the party's trying to close in. The remaining gnoll goes to finish the kill on the monk. I roll a 2 and a 3. Somehow does not hit the unconscious hunk of a dwarf on the ground, and the party is able to work through their next couple of turns to drag him out of the fray, and we finally get back to the goblin sorcerer. He then proceeds to again cast message, but this time on the other gnoll. The gnoll who had just witnessed his comrade, his compatriot, murder their pet scorpion in cold blood. He tells this gnoll, "Your comrade has gone crazy. He's turned on the scorpion. He must be killed." This gnoll hears this whisper. I have him roll another deception check. Of course, how the night's going. He rolls insanely high. I love it. I want to roll with it. That gnoll just murdered their pet in cold blood. So I describe that the gnoll walks over to his compatriot, picks up his spear, and screams at him. And gnoll, "What were you thinking?" I roll an attack. I think this will last for one round. Natural 20. I'm dumbfounded. With only 15 or so hit points left, this gnoll that just got messaged kills the gnoll that had killed the scorpion. Everybody's killing everybody, and the party's literally doing nothing. The goblin cackles maniacally from 30 feet away. The remaining gnoll that's still alive gets pummeled by the party. So in classic fashion, without them actually trying this time, they had managed to successfully complete their second mission by complete accident, getting everybody else, all of their enemies, to kill each other. The dust settles. They go around asking each other, "What do you think happened? Yeah, that was crazy. They just started killing each other for no reason. I can't believe it." And eventually the attention turns to the goblin sorcerer, who thinks he's a wizard, and they all ask him why he wasn't helping in the battle, why he had been 30 feet away just watching, and they ask him, "What do you think happened? Being that far away, did you see something happen to the gnolls?" And he just turns and simply responds, "Yeah, that was pretty weird." And that's how we ended the session. So that's it. That's all I got. That's the first Adventure Chronicle. Let me know if you want to hear how the rest of the story unfolds as this motley crew of misadventurers find their way into this tomb of the elements and search for the countdown clock before the Night Heralds can arrive and take it from them. And I'll see you all at the table.